This factor alone, game theory, is the biggest reason for why I was successful in the eclipse. That brought me that extra, maybe it would have been 3, but it was 6, because I thought about game theory and thought about economic models and predicting the future. So now this is a bit more advanced video, and you don't necessarily need to do all of this, okay? Like a lot, I'm just putting everything out there. So let me just explain. Now, this is a tip I got from my mentor, but then I also went into it myself, but this was huge. So let me just start off with, like, is this for you specifically, like, is this a brand opportunity or is this an arbitrage opportunity? So I made a full video about this. It's on my YouTube. I might put it in here, but we'll link down below to where that is. But essentially, think about it. Who is going to be coming into this market and why are you? So is this just like arbitrage, supply and demand change? Or is this, wow, this is going to add long-term value to my brand? Okay, so make that decision for yourself and think about, the long-term value of this to you and where you're at in your career, and make a decision based off that. At some point, you got to stop going for these arbitrage opportunities, in my personal opinion, just because you want to start building something that scales once you get the cash flow. But if you're just going for the cash flow, go for that. But now, onto the real point here. Let's talk about the level of success and sophistication of the other players, okay? So what I like to do is click on the sellers' names in the market and see if this is their best product and how many SKUs they have, okay? So now if there's a big fish and you're taking out one of his 18th bestseller and you're going to steal sales from him, he's probably not going to do anything, all right? But if there's some guy in there and he's got 3 and he's clearly Chinese and you come in and you start taking big sales, you're taking his livelihood, or if it's just someone from America or another country, they're going to do maybe black hat retaliation and whatnot. So they're going to be a more scrappy person if you come in and start dominating. And so just take that into account. It's not the most important thing, but it's big. So, but then now, overall, think about the age and the shape of this market, okay? So is this going to be is it like this new market, not proven yet, or is it a fad? Okay, so like a fad, typically stay away from fads, okay? Now, but people may like, but you went with a fad. I didn't go with a fad. I went with a very predictable event. And here's where the game theory went in. I thought about, well, who are the players that are going to do this? And I realized, hey, everybody's going to think that this is a one-time event, or they might not figure out about it because they're all looking at product research tools. They're not looking at what's going to happen in the future here. So I was like, everybody is going to get on it too late, and people are going to be afraid they're going to be stuck with eclipse glasses that they can never sell again, so they're going to underbuy. And I did that, and I did the math, and I looked, and I said, all the sales are going to come right at the end, because I looked at Google Trends for blast eclipses and everything. So I said, I want to be the last seller left, and that paid off huge, because I was the last person left with eclipse glasses. Well, there was one other guy, but so by thinking about the game theory, that really paid off. But maybe you're not going to get something like that, understandable. But think about this, like, so the game theory, is this thing going to last for 10 years? Is this going to be an evergreen product? Or is it a megatrend? So when I'm talking about a megatrend, like healthy living, organic, something proved by science, or like, I guess, the ketogenic diet, stuff like that, where it's a rising niche and it's just ever growing, and like it's a cultural change. Think of this. It's going to be a constantly rising market for a long time, and they're going to be pretty passionate market. All right. So that's something where it's like, oh, maybe it's a little competitive, but I think about what's the long-term game if I come in here and compete. But if it's, a consistent market or whatnot, that's something that just, you play it a little bit differently. Then now if it's seasonal, you definitely do. But here's the thing, like we talked about in the video where we talk about the barriers to entry, we realize that the more barriers, the less competition there's going to be. So where I try to focus is a mega trend. So it will be, if it's competitive, but it's a mega trend, that's okay with me. All right. I'm not going to go for a fad. I will go for a new market, but there's still some risk there because it's not yet proven. But if it has the potential to turn in, so if you go to the Google Trends video, you can learn more about how I kind of classify these. And then is it seasonal? Like seasonal, there's actually huge opportunity. It's harder, and you got to predict very well and whatnot, but there's just not that many people do it because it is harder and it's not easy to find and it requires a lot of planning. And then if it's like a dying market, that's like fidget spinners, there's just less and less sales each day because it was a fad. So really take into account that. And one way you can look, another one that's not on here is review rate. Okay, so on average, how many reviews are there per sale? All right, now if you're in one, like I found one that was selling consistent for the past 3 years, and the top listings had like 30 to 40 reviews. In that market, just people didn't leave reviews. Now I could come in and the listings weren't well optimized, and there's these big fishes, and they're all kind of selling in the B2B space. So they're selling supplies to other businesses. So the people that are buying these were just employees. They just buying them for the business. They're not really leaving reviews. Now, that's something where I come and I look at the game theory. I look at my competitors. So don't just look at the listings, but like actually look into their business, okay? Click on their seller name, look at all the ASINs they list. Like, is this try to create a mental image of who they are in your head. Like look at their other product offerings. Is it a private labeler, or is it a B2B business who, it's a 50-year-old man or woman who owns this, and they got just employees managing it. They're not who don't care and whatnot. Or is this like private labeler, 4 items, he's on it, and that's like all the. So look at the whole market, not just. I talk about knowing who your customer is, but know who your suppliers, your competitors are. Like check out their website. What do they do? That's going to be a good way to get a tell on how competitive it's going to be in the future. So summing it up, I'm looking for something where we've got something. We have rising seas, rising boats. Like a rising sea lifts everybody up. Somewhere where I can make a brand in a mega trend would be ideal. Or just something that's consistent where there's not that sophisticated of players, but it's, private labelers haven't gone into this area yet. Or if you find something that's new or fad and you find it on the beginning part, you can kill it. But just know that it's going to get competitive, okay? So think about like what's going to happen 6 months, 1 year from now. Can I compete on something other than price? That's another big factor because the Chinese will come in eventually if it's a good market. And then if you have no way to differentiate when the Chinese do come in, like how do you protect yourself for that future? These are just like a list of everything that I could possibly think of when looking at, just game theory and everything. But the main findings from my game theory was most people will avoid the eclipse and most people will be afraid to have excess inventory. And my players in my market, I can be that guy who does that calculation and holds it till the end, and it paid off really well. So just thinking about possible scenarios, don't get stuck in it though, but just take it into account, because if there's 0 barriers to entry, a lot of people are, and it's profitable and just lightweight, like it's stuff, people are going to hop in. Just know that, and just have a plan for what happens when that does. Also, I didn't talk about supply and demand. So as time goes on, there are more competitors in a market. Now, you need to look at what happens to demand, okay? So if supply is larger than demand, in general, the price goes down. That's why you want to be a premium product, okay? So you will still have those people buying, because some people just go to the top price stuff and buy those, like me, and I know a lot of other people do. So take that into account, but just know that game theory and basic economics will push prices down over time. That's why a lot of sellers, they always have to be adding new products, and margins get lower, but there's only to a certain point. Once the market becomes solidified, the top players have that competitive advantage at the top, and they can maintain their margins and keep it profitable, but everybody else essentially gets kicked out over time. So you want to find that sweet spot in the market where you can still get in and solidify yourself and maintain in that market. And then it's truly passive as long as you keep it going and you've got it ranked up there. Now, some other big players may come into the market over time with big resources and can still compete, but less and less people can compete over time. So take that into account. But they won't come into a market if it's not worth stealing. Now, so if it's worth stealing, it's probably going to be good forever, for at least for a long time. Hope this is helpful somewhat. Leave comments down below. Let me know what you think. If you're confused at all, I'll add to this, but don't get stuck on this, but don't ignore it either.